Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It's Chris, aka Starrapter, here for the Outer Rim Transmission podcast. This is episode number 83 on the docket for this week. We have not one, but two Disney Plus releases to talk about, plus some publishing updates on that front and more. So, we're going to get into all those this week on the podcast. How's it going, Milton? We missed you last week. How's everything going?
Overall, I'm good, man. It's just today you guys can't see me if you're watching because, technical difficulties. However, you can hear me. I'm very grateful for that. But other than that, though, I'm good and just ready to get into the podcast.
Heck yeah! What about you, Ben? Are you getting snow, or is it just kind of missing you at this point? Because it looks like New York's getting hit hard.
Yeah, I mean, for me so far, luckily I haven't been getting hit with snow. It's more of just like 20 degrees around here, so it's very cold. And yeah, it's just been pretty chill like that. I have a friend who's lives in Buffalo, and he's like getting blasted. He's sending me all kinds of pictures on like Snapchat and stuff, and it literally looks like it's Hoth. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I don't know. The people that are there, any of our viewers or listeners are there, of course, be safe, and hey, when you're inside, just enjoy the podcast when you're just chilling out over this weekend.
Yeah, it came very suddenly. It's not a weather podcast. Get to the point, guys. But I'll be honest, it's just like, whoa. Like, one day it's like 65 here, next day it's like, oh, got to break out the winter coat already. So I'm kind of over this already. But at least we got some cool Star Wars stuff to talk about and keep us warm and turning on the fire and getting cozy up to some good old action in a galaxy far, far away. So does anybody have anything in particular they want to talk about first when it comes to Star Wars and their week in general?
Honestly, I haven't really had much stuff with Star Wars. Except for watching Andor. I think you guys can be a little surprised with my reaction the last couple episodes. But yeah, I think my focus has been just on like Andor and dealing with that. So yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's going to be a very short segment this week because I got nothing. I don't have any new Hasbro toys, which is good on my part. I'm saving up for the celebration in Europe, which is not going to be cheap after calculating all those budget expenses. So I really got to cut down anyway. But I'm still continuing to read through this big tome here of the creation of the Star Wars The High Republic, and it's really cool because it's not just the High Republic tidbits, but we're getting tidbits in this book. It's the author is Kristen Baber, who does the Star Wars show every week on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff about George Lucas in here. There's a lot of stuff about just early development of stuff like the prequels, because they're treating this series as a movie, essentially, with, hey, what do you do when you make a movie? You start throwing ideas at a whiteboard and you start making concept art. So there's one of the concept artists that was hired by George Lucas that worked on this project. His name's Ian McCaig, and he is the guy that created the concept for Padme, created the concept for Darth Maul. So they got this guy in there, and he's talking about his process and all that. And I just got done reading a passage about 10 minutes ago relating to Jedi and celibacy and Jedi and having sex and all this stuff. And apparently, like, it's cited in this book that George Lucas, on a BBC interview back in 2000 or something, in promotion of Attack of the Clones, literally said it word for word. He said, yeah, Jedi could have sex, but they just can't have attachments. They can't be possessive of anybody. So there goes that long-standing argument that I see pop up on Twitter when it comes to the High Republic, because there are plenty of relationships there, things happening. That can happen. And even the maker himself had confirmed that like 20 years ago. So there you go. So yeah, I've just been poring over this book and trying to get through this because we got another High Republic book coming out the following week, Convergence, by Zoraida Cordova. So I want to try to... That's what I'll be doing the rest of the weekend is, if it is snowing, I don't know. I'll be just sitting here regardless reading this book.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that sounds like a really good plan for the weekend, with it being that cold out. And I mean, hey, like you said, even with it not snowing where I am, for example, it's still 20 degrees out. Who's going outside to just sit in that weather? Not me.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, like I'm good, and especially around here where I live, it's open fields everywhere, so we're getting like wind gusts up to like 35, 40 mile an hour, so it is cold. Um, but yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, Chris, about that interview with George Lucas. Like I remember like looking into that or hearing about that interview years ago, probably when I was in college, like in 2013 or 14. Like I remember hearing about that interview, and the funny thing is, even back then, even to this day, it's funny hearing about it because it's like, so yeah, George Lucas is basically saying he's cool with Jedi like living in like a hookup culture as long as you don't date. Like it's cool to hook up, just can't date. So it's just kind of funny hearing that, but hey, I mean, there's that, and then yeah, like for me, I didn't really have much of an eventful Star Wars week either. Like you guys, like you said, we have Andor, we have that Dust Bunny special thing that happened, and then we had, pretty much no other Star Wars news for the most part overall. So it's just kind of like it's been kind of a slow week. I feel like for a lot of the Star Wars community, other than Andor, like because normally, like with us, of course, being on YouTube and into content creation, like even if you like look around like the other Star Wars creators on YouTube, like it's just a lot of like this week it really felt like a lot of people just weren't posting a ton of different things just because there isn't a lot of stuff to really talk about. It's just like, all right, let's get to Andor, watch that, and then let's get to the Andor finale next week, watch that, and then we'll be in probably a couple weeks later we'll probably be in the marketing cycle for Mando, I would guess.
Bad
So
batch.
we're getting into that, and it's just like right now they're not going to release any news, especially right before the Andor finale. So it's just, for me, it was just another kind of just normal week with nothing crazy Star Wars wise happening.
Yeah, well, speaking of out this week, we had 3 comics that released this week. The first of being Han Solo and Chewbacca, and this is issue number 7. And the way that the story feels is feels like it's written by television, which is funny that I mentioned that because it's written by the guy that did the Arrow series, Mark Guggenheim. You've probably seen that name.
Our guy.
I know, Milton, you watched the hell out of this show. Ben, you watched it. I watched. I didn't finish all the way through. But I was reading this comic, and I'm like, oh, man, the pacing and everything, the antics, it feels like I'm watching TV, but I'm reading it in a comic book. And then I realized, that's why. So it's kind of cool seeing them crossing the streams and making a cinematic experience on the comic book.
He's already. So what's funny about that is they already have experience doing that. So I actually have these comics. I have the Arrow comics for the show. So there was season 2.5 Air comic, and then there was I believe there was season 3.5 or something. But there was one called The Dark Archer, which is about Malcolm Merlin.
Oh.
But like Mark Guggenheim and all of them, like they wrote comics for the show.
Oh, wow.
So you have to fill in the gaps. So like, and even like reading those, they're really, really good. Like it feels like you're watching the show. But
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So basically, Han Solo. Oh, you guys will love this. So basically, catch up on the story. Han Solo gets shot first by Greedo because this takes place before New Hope. So Mark Guggenheim had to get that one in on all of us. He's yeah, Greedo shot first, but obviously Han is alive, but he gets stranded on this island of these aliens that don't speak Basic. So Han's able to get out of there and then goes and frees Chewbacca from a prison, which happened to have Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba as well as Maz Kanata there all at the same place. So yeah, it was a good old time. And then we also had Dr. Aphra, issue number 26. It continues to be zany and wacky as you would expect, dealing with like this force cult that's not really force sensitive called the Ascendant and all that. And then the big one this week, and I talked about this in the chat a little bit, our private chat, we had Hidden Empire number 1. And as my friend and guest on the show before, Steven Cinder said, this is the OT's back. Because as far as the comics, people are like, some of these storylines kind of go on and go on. It's like, what's the relevance? What's the importance of the storyline? But then Charles Soule comes at us with a home run in this first issue, and it's like, yeah, we're back. Like, this is compelling storytelling that is going to move the needle forward for not just comics, but like Star Wars storytelling in this era, with the Emperor like going head to head with Qi'ra and force choking her through like light years away and all this kind of crazy stuff, and her like putting together this big force time loop thing. It's wacky. It's wacky. I have my reviews on there and everything already. Prince Zizor is canon now. You see a hologram of him. So I got my one win. Now I just need to get my hashtag #Rendar watch, and I'll be happy. So come on, publishing, get them in there already. So I very much like the Knights of Ren are in there. You got Vader, who's going to be tasked with taking down Qi'ra, which he already tried to do before and then got distracted. I know it's something that Milton, you were like flabbergasted. How the hell is Vader going against Qi'ra in a melee and not taking her head off? Well, I think she probably won't make it out of this, so we'll actually see that happen. But that's what happened in the comics this week. Yeah, so there you go. I do want to shout out the housekeeping. As usual, if you're listening to this, you can watch us every Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. And if you are watching this, go ahead and download us on any of your favorite podcast apps of your choice. And we have t-shirts you can buy, outerrimtransmission, on teespring.com. So we're going to jump on in. We have a couple very brief little stories here to talk about. As Ben was saying, not a whole lot going on here. Keeping with the publishing and the comics in particular, and the era that we're currently in with all the Return of the Jedi stuff, we have Return of the Jedi one-shots coming, celebrating the 40th anniversary of my favorite Star Wars movie. And I'm just so happy that they're putting this much effort into celebrating Return of the Jedi, because this is my bread and butter of the Star Wars universe. So the first one we're getting is Star Wars Jabba's Palace. It's written by none other than Mark Guggenheim. So there we go. Not much is known about this, but we're going to have a one-shot for this. Maybe we'll have a one-shot of some kind of characters on the Death Star or something. So, I mean, I like the idea. I mean, we don't have the confirmation that they're doing any sort of, from a certain point of view, novel from Del Rey. I would assume if they're doing this amount of work with Marvel, we'll probably be getting that in the fall time or something like that. But I'll throw this one over to Ben. What are you hoping? What kind of stories, if you were to give us some stories of some maybe side characters or locations in Return of the Jedi, celebrating that movie, I'll ask both of you, which ones would you want to do? Which one would you want to delve in?
Yeah, I would say for me personally, I think a really good one to do, man, like there's so many different options, honestly, when it comes to Return of the Jedi, because there's so many like different Imperial lieutenants and Rebel lieutenants and, you know, things like that. But for me, I think it would be cool if they would somehow do like a canonized version of the Luke scene that's been deleted, or the deleted Luke scene, you know? Like do something like that, kind of like because technically that is in Return of the Jedi, or you know what I mean? Like if they would do a story for that, it would be like in that movie. So, like, it would be cool if they would kind of give us, like, a little bit of, like, a Luke one-off thing, like, leading up to him, like, knocking on the door, basically, and walking into Jabba's palace. Like, I'd love to see that. And, heck, if they want to get real crazy with it, you know, throw in there some of the stuff that was alluded to in, like, the old Legends material. Like, before Luke went to Jabba's palace, he literally was having visions of a red-headed woman when he did that whole front flip thing and all that stuff. He literally had those visions. Like, just canonize that. Like adjust the scene, adjust it a little bit for your own creative likeness or whatever. But like, just do that whole thing. Like, give us Luke's little story before entering Jabba's palace. Like him like visioning that whole mission, and then they can kind of, like, if they would do that, like, this is really getting out there on a limb, but if they would do that, it would kind of make Mara Jade canon. Like, do something like that.
Yeah.
And, like, to me, that's, like, stuff, like, that degree of I guess you would say, oomph. Like, that's something I feel like would be a good push for the comics. Like, boom, we just dropped a Mara Jade thing. Like you said, now Prince Shizor. Like, just drop characters in like that fans love and adore, versus, to me, a lot of the stuff with Star Wars, like, they get reserved on characters because it's the whole, well, we might eventually use them in a series or a movie or something, so we just don't want to let, it's basically like we don't want to let the book people do it first, which is kind of annoying in my opinion. But that's like always been my feeling of it, is like they're just kind of like saving the big characters for only the on-screen stuff. It's like, no, just let them get introduced in a book or comic and go from there. Like, and then basically if anyone asks, do like you did in Mando with Bo-Katan. You don't need to know much about her other than what we saw in those episodes. Like, do something like that if you introduce like a Mara Jade or someone like that. I think that would be a fun story to do with Luke, and it would get people interested, aka sell money, sell comics, etc. It would be a really good start to the whole Return of the Jedi like line.
Oh man, that's actually my idea. I was gonna say is like just pie in the sky kind of thing. Is like throw in a Mara Jade story, Mara Jade origin. Have her speaking with the Emperor on the Death Star, and then you see her arrival at Tatooine or something like that. What about you, Milton? What would you have? Comic that's celebrating the 40th anniversary. Would you do something on Endor? Do something on Tatooine? Do some side story for some rebellion spy, or maybe finally get the story of many Bothans died to bring this information. Maybe we'll finally get that. That'd be cool.
I mean, we're kind of getting that with like, well, we kind of got it with Rogue One already, and now with Andor, with how they got the Death Star plans and how the rebellion was formed. I mean, if I had to pick something that would be canonized, like in the comics or hell, even live action that we haven't seen, I know we got a little bit in the initial launch of The Force Awakens with like post Return of the Jedi with Luke getting the tree.
Yeah.
But I feel like with a lot of the Legends books, and I know I'm going off the weeds a little bit, some of those Legend stories post Return of the Jedi were pretty epic, and like I want them to explore, I guess, Luke's psyche a little bit about, okay, yes, they destroyed the Emperor and Vader, but what were the actual repercussions? Did they accept Luke as the ultimate, like Jedi, as the ultimate hero? Like there's some baggage that have to have come out. Now we did explore this somewhat in Bloodline with them finding out that Leia is the Darth Vader. But I wonder what Luke was thinking, because it's easy for us to jump into the weeds of like, oh, well, he was a hero the whole time. Like, did Luke think that he could do this? So I want to see stories like that, I guess, if we're going to make comics at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, Luke is such an important character. Like, getting his, like, psyche, like you said, just dealing with that as well. Like, from our point of view with Return of the Jedi and even, like, Mando now, seeing Luke, like, he basically... if you take it, say, strictly on screen, and Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong if they really dove into it at all elsewhere, but like on screen, we never really got the repercussions of Luke after he kills Vader and all of that. From his point of view, like we never get the whole thing of like, holy smokes, my dad was like the evilest person in the galaxy for like 20 years or 30 years or whatever. So it's just like, it's that whole thing. It'd be interesting to see like Luke dealing with that. I would say, and then I just feel like that would be a really good one that you brought up, Milton. Also, an honorable mention one while we're sitting here talking about it. All right, so we got the many Bothans die thing. Another one we need a major explanation for in canon. I mean, it may be in canon already, and I may not be aware, but how the heck does Lando go from being a manager on Cloud City basically to a general in Return of the Jedi? Like, we need that explained because all he references is the Battle of Tanab. Like, was that significant of a battle? Like, I don't know, was Mon Mothma and the entire rebel leaders about to like get smoked and Lando saved the day? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that needs to get explained because Lando, like, you talk about, I mean, for our people that have been keeping up with sports, you talk about Jeff Saturday going from being a guy sitting on a TV set to coaching the Indianapolis Colts. Like that's about as big as jump you can make. Like Lando being a manager for a city to being a general in the rebellion at their biggest battle. I just don't. That's always one story that's always kind of befuddled me. It's like, man, at least Han had to get some experience through A New Hope and his stuff to get to it, but Lando, like, he just skipped every step.
Yeah, I mean, the comics have been slowly, and I mean very slowly, building us into seeing how Lando could be accepted as a leader in the rebellion. There's one moment where he's charging with the Millennium Falcon as the first ship in the fleet to like go after these Imperials or whatever they were doing at that moment. So that like there's evidence that that's slowly happening. Maybe we'll get an insight into it next week, because next week they're releasing Star Wars Revelations #1, which is also written by Mark Guggenheim. So like the whole Lucasfilm Trust has basically given Mark Guggenheim the keys to the Return of the Jedi kind of stuff. So he's got some ideas apparently. So Revelations is going to be a preview, if you will, of the next year of Star Wars comics. There's going to be stories relating to his own series with Han Solo, to Darth Vader, to the Bounty Hunters, to the Star Wars series. So maybe we'll get some sneak peek at like, oh, you know, Luke Skywalker creating his green lightsaber, stuff like that. So I would expect I can probably answer some of these questions when we come back a week from now. But yeah, just some interesting things to ruminate about. And also more in publishing, we have more of the Legends collection revealed. I know you guys will like one or two of these. We have 3 books that have been announced. We have Dawn of the Jedi, which is the first book in the Legends continuity. It's the ancient days of the Jedi. We have Republic Commando, which is called Hard Contact, the first of a series of books there by Karen Travis, I believe. And we have Yoda Dark Rendezvous, which is a story about in the Clone Wars with Dooku. So which one of these have you guys read?
I haven't read any of them.
Oh. Because I know the Republic Commando one is a very popular one. I've heard of Dark Rendezvous.
Yeah, I've read all of those. I mean, the one I don't remember the most is Dawn of the Jedi, just because it's been forever since I've read that one. But Republic Commando is excellent. Like Karen Travis for sure should be doing Star Wars stuff. You know, to this day she should still be writing, just because like of course, you know, you had like the video game to base things off of, but at that time she only had the video game to like go off of, and those characters. And the best part about that book, I would say, is, for example, all right, so we know, like, I know in current canon, I know some people have had issues with Hera's father being different, really different feeling from the books to the on-screen, like him just seeming really different. I've seen several people, like, criticize that. Like, the thing is with, like, Karen Travis with the Republic Commando books, like, she really hit the personality of the squad like perfectly. Like you know, you got Boss, who's like the leader, who, you know, that's your character, and then like she got like Sev's cockiness, like him being like the sniper, and like Scorch being the like kind of like funny clown type guy he is. Like she nailed the characters really well in those Republic Commando books, so it kind of like seamlessly fits right in with you know, with the game, which, you know, to me, it fits perfectly. And then,
oh man,
you know, and then like the Dark Rendezvous book, that's another one that's been so long ago that I've read. Like I've joked before, I've forgotten more Star Wars than like I've consumed, just because I consumed so much Star Wars stuff over the years. Like, holy smokes! Like, I've literally read almost every Legends book I've read for the most part.
Wow.
Like all these 3 books I've read, and almost every Legends book I've read, there's only a few I haven't, and it's just like, man, I don't remember a quarter, probably 30-40% of these, because there's just so many.
Mm-hmm. That's why I like to just write stuff down.
Yep.
Yeah, I know this is kind of spoiling the beans a little bit for our viewers and our listeners out there. I jot down intensive notes for every Star Wars book I read, in hopes that maybe just one day I'll do a video or 2 on these things. And lately I've just been so caught up in other things that I haven't done like any deep dives, but that does help. Like, I'll write down things, and then at least I could be like, oh, what happened here? And I can go back and reference the note or something like that. So that helps me keep in contact. But no, it's cool. Like you were mentioning about Hard Contact being a bridge between the video game. So, you know me, I love that cross-pollination of content. We're going to be getting that pretty soon here in March with Sam Maggs and her book there, Star Wars Jedi Survivor Battle Scars, which is going to be that connective tissue in between Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. So you have things like that, which are really neat because it just gets the player in the mindset of, oh, I have all this extra context of what is happening. And just looking at the general idea, right? Like, okay, they generally release these books that have some kind of relevance in the current canon. Well, we've seen a bunch of commandos at the end of Bad Batch Season 1. We're gearing up for
Scourge.
Season 2. Was that him? I'm not sure if that was confirmed. Maybe it was.
Well, okay, so I saw it answered. This is like where I get into like the eye roll territory with some of the stuff with some of the current Star Wars, because they didn't like confirm it was him, but they're like, oh well, he has the same armor painting as Scourge, but we're not confirmed. But the I saw a guy respond, from the show, basically said, we're not confirming it's him, but he's wearing the same armor as Scorch. It's like, come on, people.
Yeah, so... we have Dark Nerdy Gonzo chiming in. Yoda Dark Rendezvous was a great read. Recommend that one. The most of the re-releases. Republic Commando, that first book, was solid. The latter books in the series kind of went off a bit. All right, well, thanks for that tidbit for everybody listening and watching. There's what Gonzo's recommending. But yeah, no, these are cool. These are coming out in May, so we got those to look forward to. So very cool stuff on the book front. So we got a random video that just uploaded yesterday, Star Wars YouTube channel, and what it is called in celebration of Life Day is Life Day Star Wars Lofi. So this is almost like the Yule log at Christmas time when you just turn on this certain channel and you just see a flaming log with some Christmas carols. Well, you can do the very same thing every year going forward with the official Star Wars holiday of Life Day, and it's really cozy. It's really kind of this cool looped hour-plus long video of a couple Wookiees there in the foreground. You see all the lights, the little orbs that they celebrate with, and it's cool how in recent years Lucasfilm has turned what is George Lucas's most hated creation and managed to turn it around to be referenced in The Mandalorian Episode 1, to have several comics that reference in comic books and novels and everything like that. So did either of you just like click on this link to just see what the heck this thing was?
No, I didn't know it was even like a thing, like until you just started talking about it. I mean, I haven't watched the special in like years, and like I said, and I know the Star Wars YouTube page has been slipping the last couple of years, so I haven't really been like even on it. So, but no, like, is it worth watching?
Well, it's not really something you're gonna watch, and it's actually one of the questions I would have for the audience is, hey, has anybody just like sat there and watched this thing intently? Like it's Andor for an hour? Because
no, you're not doing that. Like you said, it was like the Yule log. So I'm not,
background noise.
Like you see like a Wookiee like turning his head. You hear like ambient noise. You hear Wookiees growling. There's this music, and it's like I said, it's a very calming thing to have like on in the background. Like for instance, like you have some people over your house. Like put that on the TV and see what they say. You know, it's like, what is this?
No. Nah, I'm good.
Oh, that's funny. No, I clicked into it. I was like, what is this? Like, I guess I didn't even think about it that way of being like the Christmas U-Log thing. But it is. It's good that they're embracing it, because like we were kind of discussing before we started recording, before we went live. Like my thing with Star Wars is a lot of times they're taking themselves way too seriously on a lot of things. Like, instead of, even if, we were kind of discussing it before the show, even if you're not going to do a yearly holiday special for all these different things because it's not technically not canon or whatever, like, okay, then an easy way to do it, in my opinion, especially since now Marvel is doing it, like, do some type of a Life Day 35-minute adventure every year, live action. Put whatever $5 million into it, or however much it is to produce like a little enclosed episode, and just do something like do a little one-off story. I don't know. Like, you could easily make some generic story that's not obviously like galactic based or something. Like I don't know, have it be Grogu and Mando doing something, and get a few cute shots of Grogu and be at a village where they're celebrating Life Day. Like, boom, there you go. Like, or have Grogu off with kids and like them dealing with some Life Day stuff. Like just something generic. And like, I just think that would make things a lot more fun, especially because like the way Star Wars has been, like it's been so like secretive, and like, we haven't had a movie in, it feels like, since Revenge of the Sith. It feels like it's been 20 years since we've had a Star Wars movie in theaters at this point. So it's just like, I'm just at a point they need to just start putting out content. Like, they need to, like, don't hold back, just start putting out content, because it always falls back on my thing of like, man, Marvel pumps out all this content and they're under the same umbrella. Like, Lucasfilm just feels like they're lagging, and I'm like, man, like with stuff like Life Day, you could have so much fun, whether, like I said, whether you do a generic adventure with Grogu and Mando, and you don't even need Pedro Pascal. Like you could just get his voice. Like, heck, half the time he's not even in the suit anyways. Just like do fun stuff like that for Life Day, and it would just be so much fun every year.
Yeah. I think if anything, they could just do animation. Like, we did get the holiday special. Don't forget that. That was actually all about Life Day. That came out about 2 years ago now. Which is funny because we haven't gotten word of any new Lego specials coming our way. But yeah, I mean, they put out, at least they did a little bit of, they did effort this year. I don't even know what they did for it last year, but it's a good sign if they put this out. Hey, maybe next year we will get something a little bit more elaborate than this. But hey, they're at least playing with the inside joke, which just makes me chuckle.
Hey, that's the way to do it. Hey, there we go. Maybe Book of Boba Fett Season 2, first episode, they'll just go back and just straight up do a live-action Life Day from the original one with him wearing the multicolored armor meeting Luke.
Oh my gosh. So we got another release on Disney Plus this week, and we had talked about it last week because we just got news that, hey, there's going to be a Studio Ghibli Grogu short hitting on Saturday, marking the 3rd anniversary of this. And yeah, Ben, I see your reaction. Just give me your play-by-play reaction of this thing here. This little, like, 2.5 minute short.
All right, so I was about to, like, channel my inner Milton when I was watching this. I could say that. Like, literally, I kid you not, guys. So I knew it was only a few minutes, so I just saved it for tonight to watch it before the show. So I probably watched it the most recent out of us three. And I was like, all right, let's see what this is. I sit down, turned on. We get, like, of course you get the Disney logo and stuff. I'm like, and the Lucasfilm logo, and I'm like, oh man, this might actually be solid here. And we get into it. 15 seconds into it, I'm like, whoa, this animation looks pretty weird. And then, like, I don't know, like, you get this weird music playing, and then Grogu's, like, staring at the camera, and then you get these little dust bunny things, and then, like, you see Grogu again, and then, like, listen, it gets crazier, and then, like, and then there's kind of just walking around, you have this weird music, and, like, these dust bunny things, and then it just has more, like, weird visuals like that, and then it cuts, and I literally said, what the F, and dropped the F-bomb, because I was like, what is this? Like, this is your anniversary of Mando Season 1? Like, that is a slap in the face to The Mandalorian. Like, you're releasing that type of trash. Like,
yeah, that's disrespectful. And thank God you watched it, because you know me, I didn't want it. I could look. I still haven't watched Ms. Marvel yet because I can't get to the first 15 minutes. So this little 2-minute short, I wouldn't got through 15 minutes or 15 seconds. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why would you even release something like that to celebrate one of your most celebrated Star Wars show ever?
Yeah, it's the biggest show.
Yeah, and that's funny because actually, let me go back to something we talked about earlier, our week of Star Wars, and I forgot to mention this, Chris, but you mentioned and asked that question. we just hired this new guy in my office, and he sees that I have like this Star Wars stuff in my office, and he's like, hey, he's like, did you watch the Andor show? I'm like, yeah. I said, I'm really starting to like it, and he's like, how about Mandalorian? I'm like, dude, dope. He's like, yeah. He's like, and that show's kind of fire. Now he's just like me. He's a lifter. He's a big guy. So again, nerds all look different, but it's like you got people like that. And my point is, everyone loves that show. Mm-hmm. Different types of people, and then you release this trash to celebrate the anniversary. Like you could have done like an hour-long like documentary of like, hey, what the actors, what led up to the actors to be casted in that first season, or how was that storytelling process in the background, and then say, oh, by the way, because it's the anniversary, here's a sneak peek of season 3. That's perfect marketing, because the three of us would have watched it and would have reviewed it.
Yeah, well, here's another thing with that. Like, also, before I get into my next point, it's awesome, like, hearing, like, I always love, that's one of the best parts of coming on this podcast, is hearing both of your guys' stories, like, Chris, you talking to people at the gym about Star Wars, or Milton, you, like, meeting new office workers, like, talking about Star Wars, like, that sort of stuff is always cool, like, getting Star Wars out there. And, it's just like in the back of your head, you're like, yeah, don't check out this crappy short that came out. Because, like, what I just was stunned. I was stunned at how poor of a quality it was. Like, I could not believe they even put a penny into that. Like you could have, we could have downloaded an animation software and done that. Like, it was that crappy of animation. I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe what I was watching. Like, and the Lucasfilm logo being branded on the front of it is what killed me the most. Like, it's like, this is endorsed by Lucasfilm. Like, it's like, that's all you need to know. Like, it was so bad. And here's another thing too. God, I sound like John Campea ranting about this, about a 2-minute short. But it's like, my thing with it is, if you're going to do that, let's just say you keep this exact, like, weird music, weird cinematography. Like I said, Milton, Grogu is literally, like, staring into the camera, like, fourth wall breaking, staring into your eyes while you're watching it. And it's just like, what is this? But my thing is, even if you're going to do this exact same thing, why not spend $5,000 and just do the little live action shot of the Grogu puppet, of the animate the dust bunnies and keep it moving? Like, because people would at least appreciate a live action little Grogu, going around going ee, like making its little Grogu noises, versus a really crappy animation. Like, why not? If you're gonna do an anniversary thing, give us a little live action 2-minute Grogu and the Dust Bunnies, if you want to even do that. Like why give it to us even in this crappy animation? Like, that's what got me. Like, the animation looks so bad.
All right. Yeah, so I want to just preface this. Wow, this is one hell of a rant. I want to preface this to all of the anime fans out there. Just know that Ben and Ben, you haven't watched Miyazaki stuff before, right? Like the Studio Ghibli stuff. So you're coming from the perspective of somebody that has never really experienced those sorts of things before.
The main I've watched is Dragon Ball.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z reboot.
But that's okay. So those are not anything close to what this studio does. All right. So I just want to preface. Just telling all the people out there, you guys haven't really watched what is it called? My Friend Totoro, or what is it? The Village Bride? No, that's the Star Wars one. There's the Princess Mononoke or whatever, which are apparently people Spirited Away. People swear by these things, and that's what builds up the popularity and all the accolades for Studio Ghibli. So they have their own distinctive style. It's not for everybody, apparently. It's not for everybody, but it's just that's the thing. The Star Wars Lucasfilm is partnering with this company to appease to these other sorts of fans too, because there's a lot of fans out there. They're trying to get a crossover. They're trying to get these fans of Studio Ghibli to cross over, and I'm looking at this as maybe more of like a testing, proving ground sort of thing. Like, they're just seeing what kind of engagement comes out of this. I will say, it hasn't looked good. Engagement has been down ever since the day it released, by the end of the day, I'd even hear anything else about it. It just feels like it's a good thing they didn't promote the hell out of this, which is a good thing, because if they did, this would have been really fell flat on its face and people would have really been angry. They did like StarWars.com didn't even put out an article for this thing, right? Like they don't even really talk about it. It's just like an extra little thing, like, oh, by the way, this is going up on Disney Plus. And that's the one thing is like, I would see this more as a YouTube thing. Like, I don't think that the quality of this denotes it being on a marquee service that people pay for, like Disney Plus. I think they could have easily put this on Studio Ghibli's YouTube and also had it on Lucasfilm or Star Wars' YouTube and called it a day, because it just doesn't seem like it's up to the caliber of other Studio Ghibli stuff. Like I'm comparing it to the stuff that everybody talks about. I've talked to my friends that have even watched the other things and really enjoy it, and they didn't really get anything out of this. I mean, there's clearly no story. There's no dialogue. I'll be honest, my personal take on the design of Grogu is not even all that cute, and that is what the character is built on. So if the character doesn't even sell me as being all that cute, then is it really that much of a great thing to be out there in the first place? Sorry, but I just wanted to get this stuff out of there, because I couldn't have you go on for another 20 minutes trashing it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say this. So, I'm just by saying, again, I haven't seen it, but I trust Ben and Chris, and if Ben is saying that I would react this way, I probably would. So I want to say this. So yes, this Ghibli studio, like, they may have a style, but you can still make good content, and like that.
There's no story.
Yeah, that's my issue, because I've always championed that anytime Star Wars does animation, they that's some of the best consistent work that they've done. And look at Visions. Visions is a perfect example of different styles and culture and parts of the country that we're trying to reach when it comes to other types of Star Wars fans, and they killed it. Every episode, we loved it. I think that series is a masterpiece of storytelling when it comes to animation and some of the best Star Wars in general. And then you look at so you have that example. So for me, it's no excuse that this little studio made a 2-minute, 5-minute clip and then just kind of like crap the bed on. It's like, you're partnered with Star Wars. It's not like you're partnered with some nobody company that just started a couple years ago. This has been around for 45 plus years. So like the work and expectations should be above and beyond. I think that, to me, there's no reason why they should have released it on the streaming platform. It should have been on a YouTube channel. If this was some type of experimental, let's say way to see how fans will react, or just to pull another database or fan base, okay, fine. But if it's that type of trash work, and Chris, you're the most positive of all of us when it comes to this, and you're still thinking it's garbage. So if a fan like Chris, who's trying to at least be optimistic, saying like, listen, this ain't doing it for me, like, that's a problem. Like that's a significant issue. So I think Star Wars and Lucasfilm need to get their mind right when it comes to what type of work they're putting on their platform compared to what they need to put on their YouTube channels.
Yeah, one final thing from me on that, on all of that. Like, all right, so let me correct myself on, all right, the animation style, like you mentioned, Chris, it's not like as consistent as some of their other projects per se. But my thing with it is, even if I completely don't like the animation style, there's no story there. There's no story to hook you in. Like, I can look past bad visuals for a good story. Like that was some of my critiques, say, even in the Kenobi series. There was some episodes, it felt like, man, this feels cheap as hell. But then other episodes, it was good. And you can look around bad visuals for a story. And like this, even though, I mean, man, I'm going all in on a 2.5-minute short here, but there's no story in a 2.5-minute short. And my thing with it is not to compare it, or I guess to directly compare it to some of the greatest Star Wars content ever, the Tartakovsky Clone Wars. There's some episodes that are only like 6 minutes long, and they're fire. Like, my thing is, if you can bang out a story in like 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 minutes, like, why couldn't have they done that for this? Like, I really think they tried to do they attempted to do the whole, you know, kind of like lying off the back of like Grogu being so cute, like just kind of banking on like, hey, people will like it because it's Grogu, and it's like, nah, you didn't even make the animation for Grogu look too cute, like at all, like other than him like staring like bug-eyed into the camera. It's like me, it was just like, yeah, not good. Should have been on YouTube, or it should have just been live action and been done with it. Spend the $5 or $10 and make it live action or something. Get people in there and shoot for 3 hours and be done with it. Versus what that was. It was disappointing. To me, it was more disappointing than anything just because it was on the anniversary of Mando. It would have been different if this was released, I don't know, in June or something. I would have been cool with it probably because it was like, hey, whatever, it's a little summer thing. But the fact they released it on Mando's anniversary is kind of like, it's really bad in my opinion for them to even do that, to like, it puts those expectations, you know, of fans. It's like, oh, this is a Mando 3 anniversary, like little short thing, and then you click on it and you're like, whoa, what did I just watch?
Yeah,
but I don't know. But those are my thoughts on the whole on the 2-minute short.
Yeah, to close it out, we have Marvel Studios did a Groot series of shorts that are about the same length as this, and they managed to do a lot more story. And I'm just saying, like, these are completely different cultures, right? You have the East developing this over there in Japan versus an American studio. So it's really comparing apples to oranges from a certain point of view, I guess you could say. But
I get that, Chris. I get that though. But here's the thing: like I've watched, like I said, like whether it's a 20-minute episode or 10 minutes, we've seen this already. Like we've seen this with Visions. We've seen this with. I look at Ronin Warriors when I was a kid. You know, hell, Pizza Cats. I'll go with Sailor Moon. I'm talking now. These are studios over in Japan, in China, wherever that became obviously shows that American culture loved, and. I know that's a different style in storytelling, but they were so good. And it's what 2022, and those shows came out in the early 90s. So like for them, like I hear the argument of like, yeah, different cultures, different whatever, but it's like that's no excuse if you're working with a huge IP like Star Wars. True. Like I'm sorry, whoever the real blame should be, and I think Ben's probably mad at this person. The real blame should be who signed off on that.
Yeah,
you know? And like come on.
Like, well, that's like I said, we're really diving into a 2-minute short here, guys. But it's just like, to me, it's the whole thing of how did you watch? Like again, I don't know. It's always like me going back at the Lucasfilm management. I feel like sometimes on here, but like it's just like who sat down and watched this at Lucasfilm and said, this is good enough to release on the 3-year anniversary of Mando. This is definitely good enough, and it's like. Nah, it definitely was not. Maybe, hey, we'll just say it was the intern that approved it.
So, finally to the marquee title of the show's namesake, we're going to dive into Andor Season 1, Episode 11, Daughter of Ferrix, where we have the passing away, but by the way, spoilers, as if I don't have to mention already. We have the passing away of Marva Andor. We have what is happening with Andor getting off of Narcana 5. So much going on with Mon Mothma. We're going to throw it to Milton because we haven't been able to hear your thoughts on the last few episodes of Andor. So just fill us in on what your vibe has been, your excitement for the finale after watching all the current episodes. Just fill us in, man.
Yeah, so I will say I will eat crow. Okay, because first early on in the show I wasn't feeling it, except for a couple episodes here or there. I mean, I think I was just pacing. I think a lot of it was pacing, not knowing where the story was going. These last 4 to 5 episodes, I have to say, has been really, really good. Like I've actually been very excited to get up in the morning when I go work out, come home, and actually watch the episode and be like, okay, I'm invested in the story. I know where they're taking it now, you know, and. Just the prison stuff for me was great storytelling. Great storytelling for Star Wars. And you know, again, 10 weeks ago I would have said differently, but now it's like, okay, I see where they're taking this story. And these last 4 or 5 episodes, man, I've not had any issues. I think my favorite episode was obviously the prison break, and even like prior to that, the lead up to the prison break, whenever he's like, how many guards? how many guards on whatever level it was, and you clearly see that change in what's his character's name?
Lino Koi.
You know,
yeah. Seeing his character change, he's like, all right, because you saw the pain and the love that he had for that old guy, and it was like, man, like that's how you get people hooked. You make them believe like that we love that guy too, you know, and how Cassian took that old guy and tried to protect him as well, and it's like, man. But anyways, these last 4 or 5 episodes have been nothing but dope. The current episode, as we're talking about today, Daughter of Ferrix, I loved it. It was a slower episode, but I think it needed to be that way because we just had the prison break. We have the finale next week. This is the perfect setup to say, okay, this is how we're going to end this and then lead into season 2. I love the Saw Gerrera and Luthen exchange. Love that. Hell, I love the dogfight. That dogfight was some of the best dogfighting in Star Wars. And it's only it looked good. Like for him to use those countermeasures, I never saw that before.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, I literally said I want that ship.
Oh, it looks so good.
It's so dope. I'm loving Mon Mothma more and more. Again, she's capital HOTT hot, okay? And Val, gorgeous, but I love her character too. I love that, I keep saying this from previous episodes, is that they made Fear very much of a character of this show. Because you clearly see Mon Mothma saying, I'm in trouble. And she knows the writing's on the wall. Now, we know her spoilers, we know her end game in all this. However, we still think, wait, something might happen to her. Because they still could. I mean, they could capture her, they can interrogate her, something, we just never know. But it's like, man, I didn't realize, like, building this rebellion was so stressful. Because we get from the movies, it's like, oh, the rebellion's been around for a while, no big deal. Now we're seeing the underbelly, the beginnings of it. So it's like, okay, like I'm liking what Tony Gilroy and his team has done to hook us in now. And I think he probably did this on purpose. He probably think, well, the first 5 or 6 episodes, we'll throw them off. Since episode, I want to say 6 and 7, the show's really changed. I guess ever since he went to prison or prior to going to prison, the show's changed. It's like, oh, okay, I know where we're going. So this has been a really good episode. I'm looking forward for the finale a lot, and I'm curious to see how they're going to end it and lead into season 2.
Yeah, you've basically said everything I was gonna say, Milton. I mean, you captured my thoughts probably better than I could represent them, honestly, because it's a great, as I call these, like a table setting episode. We are getting all the ducks in a row, everything pivoting toward our finale, and we could see it. We could see where it's going. Everything, all roads lead to Ferrix for this funeral of Marva, and everything, like you said, with Saw Gerrera, you know, finding out about the sacrifice that people have to go through. We heard the speech of Luthen Rail last week, you know, I'm making something about a sunrise I'll never see, and all that kind of speak about, hey, this is war, and to escalate it, innocent people or voluntary people, whatever, are going to have to put their lives on the line, even though they don't realize it, which is a terrible thing to say. But yeah, everything about this was fantastic. Ben, thoughts on this episode right off the bat, initial impressions?
Yeah, I thought this episode was one of the better ones of the series so far. I would say I really enjoyed it. You know, for everything that Milton said, like Milton, you really summed up the entire episode really well, actually. But for me, like some of the details that stood out the most, of course, were, you know, the different things with Luthen that was going on. Like now we're going to have, like, I guess you would say, like, the Empire, like, more on alert for him specifically. And then, you know, you have, of course, the repercussions with Andor dealing with now his, like, mom dying. And, you know, of course, the different things that have been introduced, like the fear introduced for Mon Mothma and everybody else involved, whether it be Mon Mothma or Vale, like, all these different people, or Val, excuse me, all these different people, like the fear element has been introduced, and it's getting done in a really good way because, you know, we have different things like pieces of suspense getting built up in the background for us as an audience. So, you know, you have basically Deidre and the ISB using Marva's funeral as basically a trap for Cassian. So, like, you know, you have these type of things that are nice introductions of fear for the people in the show, but also the viewers of the show. So I'm really enjoying that element that's been introduced. And then also some interesting things to point out, like, you know, we're getting close to, you know, the illusions of like Mon Mothma, like shipping her daughter off basically is like, I mean, that's basically what I got out of this episode is like, we're getting close to her making that call. So like, it's good that we're getting to that breaking point. Cause like I mentioned it, you know, a few weeks ago when we were discussing this episode, it's like, all right, Mon Mothma has to get to a point where it's like, you know, she gets pushed into the whole thing. And now we're at this point.
Yeah, making another person who sacrificed like that. That's the theme of these last couple episodes. Is like, what will you sacrifice? And her, she's gonna sacrifice her daughter essentially, basing it off of how she feels. Like she's in the same situation. Like she was in an arranged marriage with this guy that she just clearly doesn't like for many reasons because he's just looks pretty bad as a person from what we've seen. So now it's like, okay, I've experienced this. Do I want my daughter to go through the same sort of thing, hooked up with this mobster's son or whatever it's going to be, and then, but that's what I need to do to get the 400,000 credits. Like I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place at this point. And yeah, I guess we could start there with the discussion. Is continue just talking about Mon Mothma, Milton. What do you think about this predicament that she's in? And like you said, so much about the rebellion we just took for granted until we get to see like the politics. That this storyline reminds me a lot of like what we've seen in House of Cards, which funnily enough, I think one of the directors from House of Cards is actually part of Andor making this series. So that makes so much sense now.
Right. No, I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, I love that show. I mean, it's one of my favorite shows on Netflix. And this episode felt like that. It felt there's elements of it. I mean, it was elements of like, you know, whether it's House of Cards, a little bit of Sopranos feel, maybe some of The Wire. I mean, again, this very much was a good episode that pushed the narrative. You know, it wasn't just steady, and it just wasn't steady. It got pushed, and that was for a good reason, because we now know that Mon knows that things are on the line. She has to make a choice. Because I think at one point, her and Luthen got into it, where he's like, or he pretty much said like, "What have you really done?" or something like that. You know. So she's going to have to do something now. She's going to have to sacrifice. She's going to have to make a move. She's going to have to get into the game. Yeah, she was the money, but I mean, anyone can be the money. Anyone can do a lot from the background. You know, now she's going to be the face. So we'll see how that plays out. So I think Mon Mothma's development throughout the show has been beautiful. Her cousin Val, again, like seeing that interaction, how she's really being an influence in her cousin's life, and overall seeing where her arc's going to go, because I'm curious how they're going to play her arc out. I have honestly no idea what they're going to take her. I mean, I can see her dying next episode for some weird reason, but I can see her coming back for season 2. Yeah. So I really know. What
I like about this show so much is, yeah, you have two titular main characters in Mon Mothma and Andor, and of course they have plot armor. They both survive, obviously, but it's about the relationships that this show has built up over the last 11 episodes of the connections to these characters, the people that they care about, why us as viewers should care about these relationships. And like you said, Milton, it's like, yeah, we maybe Mon Mothma could be interrogated or something terrible like that. She'll get out alive. But it's like more or less like I'm concerned about the people she surrounds herself with. Is her daughter going to be taken into something like first off, let's dwell on that. Like, what was she doing? Like she was very concerned about her daughter. Like was she in some kind of? I got the feeling from some of the books. Like, is she in like one of those like legislative kind of things where she's like learning about the emperor and is going to probably serve the emperor and all that sort of thing? Like, I didn't know if you guys gleaned anything out of like what she was doing with all those students there or whatever.
Me, it was more like a religious thing, because it mentioned something about she found the elder, and it was some type of like religious thing of like that of Star Wars. I couldn't tell you what it is, but I mean maybe Ben you would know, but I took it as she was part of some type of like coven or like, you know, like of religion or like maybe some politics mix. I have no idea, but something to that nature.
See, I was thinking it was along the lines of it had to do with what's Mon Mothma's homeworld? Is it Chandrila?
Chandrila, yes. Yeah.
I think it has something to do with that. Like, I think what we're going to get in this series is like, this is more of also predicting for maybe the next episode. So obviously Mon Mothma was contemplating doing this deal for her daughter, basically with this guy. But my thing is, I think that could be like kind of a plot twist for us, plot twist for her. Is I think her daughter is going to be cool with this stuff, like, because we've seen her daughter be rebellious this whole series. So like, what would be more rebellious than doing something your mom completely does not like or does not endorse because of her dad and her? And when Mon comes to like tell her this, and Mon's all like depressed about it or something, and her daughter's like, "I'll do it, you know, I don't have a problem with it." And then Mon's like, "Are you sure?" Blah blah blah. Like, I think it's going to be that type of angle where it's going to be kind of like a curveball thrown at us, like, oh dang, now Mon's actually have to deal with like her daughter's accepting of it, you know, and she doesn't even realize what she's getting into.
Yeah, the spider, right? Like, she seems like she's
Yep,
on
the
her
spider.
she seems like she's on her father's side, parents' side. So it's like, all right,
Yep.
well, if you're not going to care about me, I know this is going to make you pissed off. I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw my life away just to spite my own mother. I guess so.
Yeah.
I could see that happening, maybe. Milton?
I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, again, I mean, let's be real here. That's probably what could happen. I mean, she's kind of indicated that. But yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you what's going to happen to the kid. I mean, obviously something, she's going to have to go because we don't really see her or hear about her later in the movies and stuff like that, nor any comic books that I know. I mean, maybe this is a bold prediction. Maybe she happens to be collateral damage in this whole, and let's say something that Mon has done with the rebellion that's formed. Maybe it's collateral damage and her daughter is either taken or killed, and that pushes her into more of a hands-on approach with the rebellion.
Yeah.
Well, Milton, just like Chris mentioned with Luthen, like, you know, he talked about like innocent lives basically can get, you know, taken out because, you know, it's like for the greater good, basically. Like, what if we have like a rebellion thing in the next episode and her daughter is collateral damage?
Yeah.
And then she realizes it's actually the rebels that did it. Like, you know, so you have to introduce like for Mon, her character has to have these sort of things getting built up because she's not like an action-packed character like Cassian would be or Luthen would be or whoever would be. Like, she has to have some type of like, you know, these struggles going on. So it's got to be something along these lines like that we're like heading toward.
Yeah, well, it's just like whenever Luthen met with the ISB undercover guy last week, which I thought that scene was gorgeous. I love that actually exchange when the guy asked, like, what have you sacrificed? And Luthen's like, I sacrifice, you know, my innocent, whatever he said, innocent state of mind, whatever. He said like, I've sacrificed pretty much my humanity.
Yeah.
I've given up everything, you know, like you don't see it, but I've given it up. So other people, so he's like, I know there won't be a sunshine for me. I think he makes that quote, but there will be one for others, like, you know, when this is all over and done. And I think Mon's at the point where, yes, she's been putting money in funding. However, what if she really sacrificed? You know, I think that's very telling. And I think her sacrifice will be made, will be made soon for her. So.
Certainly. Let's turn it over to Narcana 5, where we see this perilous climb of Andor. First off, I got to talk about the symbolism, the metaphor, the connections, whatever you want to call it, between Andor and climbing. So, and this was not my own thoughts. This is somewhere off Twitter or a podcast that I listen to. Is the cool fact that Tony Gilroy puts in a lot of different notions of Andor climbing, whether it be one of the people telling him to climb in an earlier episode to where we see him literally climbing on a cliff in here. And then we see K2SO, we hear K2SO saying, climb, Cassian, climb, or whatever, when he's like in the Scarif control room. So like there's this constant like going back, like Cassian's always climbing. He's always climbing to escape. He's always climbing for greatness. So I like to see them like constantly bring that thread up. I don't know if you guys noticed that one, first of all.
No, I honestly didn't. Now that you mention it, yeah, because even the first scene in Rogue One, when he kills a guy, he climbs up the wall, and like obviously when he climbs up to get the Death Star plan, spoilers. So yeah, it's like, all right, that's good symbolism. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think about it either, but that's very good symbolism, you know. And it's always cool when filmmakers put in stuff like that into like their character and like into their projects. Like it's cool like getting that sort of symbolism thrown throughout, and it's not on the nose, you know. Like
Yeah.
it's not Cassian going, "Hey guys, I need to climb this wall. Hey guys, I need to climb this rock. Hey guys, I need to climb this whatever." Like it's just built in.
Yeah. Yeah. So we as he's climbing walls, my little canon tidbit for the episode, we have a TIE Phantom flying overhead, which got me excited because that's the transport that the Death Troopers arrived in to kill Baze and cheer it on all those guys, and it's also the ship of the Ninth Sister from Jedi Fallen Order. So cool little connection there. But I know people have been asking, all right, this is Star Wars, where's the aliens? Well, these were definitely memorable aliens. Aliens that kind of gave me the creeps, if I'm being honest, because the way that
here's the thing about that. This is what I thought of, and this is like inside baseball, I guess, or just being a nerd like that. I thought those are the aliens from, speaking of the Gendy series, the ones in the last episode when Anakin had to get his arm in to get the crystal.
Oh, maybe they were.
I literally thought those were the aliens, like because they were big fat ones. Like Ben, for that.
Yeah, see, that's what I was. I honestly thought of that too. I was going to bring that. Good call, Milton. We're thinking the same thing. That came across my mind too.
Yeah, the one alien had the knife as his arm. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've seen this before. And literally, I'm thinking, oh my god, these might be the same aliens, but like, you know, they adapt them to real life. I'm thinking that's kind of that's the case, like that's pretty dope.
Maybe it's the same planet because didn't even the planet look like it was snowy?
It was like it was like snowy rocks or something.
Oh crap! I've got to look this up on Wikipedia.
Like I have to look. I mean, yeah, I have to see, but I have to really do research. But I legit thought, I'm like, man, are those the aliens from the Gendy series that Anakin had to save?
Yeah,
you know, because they're all captured and experimented on, which made them look like that.
Yeah. But like the creatures remind me of like a cross between something from The Fifth Element to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to Dark Crystal to Labyrinth. Like that real cruddy like design. I was like, oh my gosh, like if I was 10, I'd probably be crying because these type of designs always kind of horrify me for some reason. Even if it's not even in a scary scene, but like it's interesting because I couldn't really understand what the hell they were saying. The dialogue, I probably should have put the subtitles on or whatever, because the one guy he was trying to talk, the other guy was just making noises for the most part. But yeah, I guess it's like, all right, well, the Empire's destroying our home, so you're trying to take it to the Empire, we'll give you a ride. And it was cool because they had the quadrumper from Force Awakens. I don't know if it's the same exact ship that we find out later where like Rey's running is like the quadrumper, and it's like, no, how about that junk? And it's the Millennium Falcon and whatever. But yeah, Ben, what'd you think about these aliens in general? Did you enjoy them? Did you enjoy seeing aliens for the first time in a while with this series talking at least?
Yeah, like for me, like we mentioned, I for sure had the idea of like that being like alluding to like Gendy's aliens. But yeah, like for me, I don't know. I'm always a person like, I don't want Star Wars to be just humans. I mean, like, humans are definitely the minority in the galaxy, I would say, just assuming, because there are just so many intelligent like aliens and creatures and humanoids and droids and whatever else in Star Wars. Like, we need more aliens and creatures. Like, I'm always a person saying that, like, we need more of those. So it's always great getting to see them. This was my only hiccup of the entire episode, actually. I thought the whole sequence was, I don't know, maybe they should have the dialogue a little more clear or something. But to me, it felt like I don't know, they were captured and then they were like, oh, hey, you're good to go. Like, I don't know, it just was so weird. Like, it just, I don't know, it didn't flow. Like, it didn't like crush my review of this episode, but like to me, it was just strange dialogue, like strange editing, strange everything, because like they did a complete like 180 in like a couple minutes on like, we're capturing you, to, oh yeah, we'll help you out. Like, it's like, okay. But like overall, it was nice getting to see like aliens, of course, and then just like obviously Cassian having some type of a struggle, just so he's not like, you know, just walking through the series like untouched. Like, it's great getting to see like him having these little bumps on the road like this, and I'm sure we'll have more, you know, more down the line as we get into the next episode and future episodes.
So they get off of there and they're like, oh yeah, how many people made it out of here? And it's like not enough. But it's like you think of Kino Loy, poor guy. It's like, oh man, I guess he probably didn't make it. I guess.
I feel see. I don't know. I don't know if you guys saw Andy Serkis's comments, but he made some weird comments this week, so I feel like he might come back at some point.
Yeah.
Like because he basically channeled the whole, "Hey, you didn't see me die on screen, so," like that whole thing.
Could be. Let's move on to the scene where he finds out his mother is dead, right? Like he's there and he's saying goodbye to Melshi. Melshi are splitting up. By the way, it's really cool getting that awesome Rogue One reference of Melshi, the same guy that goes and breaks into the what is it? The Juggernaut vehicle. Is like Lena Halleck, you know, in the Scottish accent or whatever, and it's just like gets knocked out by K2SO or whatever. So it's cool seeing those guys have a dynamic, and they have to split up, of course. But yeah, man, that moment, it tore me up a little bit. I gotta admit, I wasn't planning on feeling much with this character for some reason. I don't know why, but like by the end of the episode, when he finds out from whoever that character is, I don't know if we got a name on him, the guy who's like the transport guy on the mic, but you get another call back to Rogue One, and this ends the episode of him looking out at the ocean with the sun. And that's almost like Luke Skywalker kind of with like the twin suns moment where it's like he centers himself on that. It's like the same thing. It's the same kind of thing we see when Cassian dies. So again, Tony Gilroy, this is the benefit of having, I'm not saying he's got the ideas, but he's the showrunner. But like the benefit of having the same person making the movie, doing the shows, you got these really cool connections that really feed into the character and then give you that much more context when you're watching Rogue One again. You see that scene, it's like, yeah, he was there about 5 years ago in the same sort of position, thinking about where the hell is his life going now that his mother's dead. You know, what is he doing next? So let's discuss that.
Well, the thing is with that, you know, bringing up the whole sunset, you know, forget even Rogue One or Luke, it's kind of good mirroring in series for this show as a whole, because when Cassian leaves in whatever episode is the second or third episode, like Marva is like looking at a sunset when he's leaving, so it's kind of like symbolic that she was looking at it when he was leaving, and then he now is looking at it when she's gone, like, you know, so it's kind of cool, like symbolism in universe or in series as well. I thought that was a nice like touch that they added. And then, you know, it's good getting to see it, Cassian like having to deal with this, because it makes me wonder how we're going to get to the whole finale, because, you know, as we know, like the events of things, like Cassian, even though he didn't tell, you know, who he was talking to and stuff, like he's obviously going to go to that funeral, like at some way or another he's going to end up there, even though he's acting like, you know, he didn't want to say who it was or what it was for or whatever, you know, when he was on the phone. So like my thing is, like, how are we going to get to that point of him going from like this to that? Like it's going to be really interesting to see his character deal with the repercussions of all of this, just because there's a lot of stuff where, you know, we may need to get answered in the finale, you know, even just from this scene alone.
Yeah, this finale is going to at least be an hour long, hopefully. I mean, this series has been doing a great job, and none of us have ever complained really about, oh, this episode is too short, right? We're pretty satisfied on getting those good 45-minute, 50-minute episodes. Milton, what were your thoughts on this? We're going to kind of almost dive into the end of the episode in the beginning of this discussion, but yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
No, I mean, I thought the ending it ended well. I mean, because again, it's leading up to something climactic for this, you know, this first season. It's smart what the ISB is trying to do. They know they're going to lure him out. You know, I think they know obviously what they're doing. And this kind of ties into, like, you know, just the Rogue One movie itself. I mean, there's a lot of symbolic, you know, scenes that you can mirror. I love the we're not talking much about the droid. What was his name? The red droid that
B2EMO. Yeah, we'll talk about him. I got notes on him. You better believe it. We can talk about him now.
Like,
yeah.
I'm just tied into the end. Like, it's just cool to see that, you know, this droid had all this emotion for Marvel. He's like, I want my Marva back or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't leave her or something.
Oh my
And
gosh, yeah.
you see these two characters that was imprinted by this woman. You know what I'm saying? Like one's a human, one's a robot, and it's like they're both in mourning, they're both in shock. You know, I can. It's going to be nice to see them kind of. I hope they reunify in this upcoming
Yeah.
finale.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. But no, I thought this ending was good. I mean, it was a perfect way to set up a finale.
I mean, think about it. Think about the journey, right? Poor Cassian. The last he met with Marva, she was like, "You got to go do your thing. I'm gonna do mine. I'm gonna stay here and rebel. It's time. The galaxy's changing." And he pays off his debts to his friends, and he's like, "I'm gonna be back. I'm gonna be back." And that's when he gets caught by the prison. You know, he gets caught in a prison. He does all that. He breaks out of a prison which shouldn't be able to be broken out of. It's a prison, but it's, you know, an imperial prison. He's going to be the rest of his life. He goes through all this crap, climbs over this cliff, gets away, does all this, and gets the bomb dropped that his mother died. And it's bad for the viewer too, right? Because we open up to this story, this episode, and they don't even show her death. It's off screen. And that's kind of the most frustrating part in a good way. It's like they jump the shark a little bit, and it's like they, you know, basically go under expectations. They subvert expectations by saying, "Oh yeah, you don't even get to see her death. We're just seeing how everybody's reacting to the death." Like this death of this minor character, when you put it this way, minor character in Star Wars, sets forward so many critical events in a rebellion that will come with her funeral, and we're going to see in this last episode. It's crazy to think, but yeah, I mean, I love the idea that they're just like, hey, we're not going to show you the death, but we're going to show the reaction.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that was actually a surprise to me as well. When we started the episode, it was like, oh wow, so we're gonna just jump it and skip the death and keep it moving, which I'm fine with, because like to me, you know, hey, it keeps the pacing going. Like we didn't need to see her death because, like, you know, like you mentioned, she's a minor character in the grand scheme of things, but also a major character because she like sets off several events. It's like the whole butterfly effect thing. You know, it sets off several events in the Star Wars universe. So, you know, it's good that they did that, and you know, it is good getting to see the reaction. You know, bouncing around from Cassian to the ISB, you know, to everybody. Like it's good getting to see that type of reaction laid out overall for her death, I would say.
Oh yeah, but B2EMO, man. I mean, that droid next to K2SO maybe has the best emotion. You know, I wonder why they called him B2EMO. I wonder why. But yeah, what a great performance from a droid, just being down in the dumps, man. Like having that kind of emotion. We've seen L337 with Lando. We've seen K2. There's been a lot of great droids in the last 6-7 years that Disney's been putting out these movies, I gotta say.
Oh yeah, that droid was really cool. Getting to see that, you know, emotional droid versus like a static normal droid. So it is cool getting to see him, and it just makes you wonder too. Are they, you know, I can't take credit for this, but I saw people like talking about on Twitter. But like, could we see maybe this droid, like his, I don't know, like his digital code or whatever, like transferred over into a K2 droid, and that like be the connection of K2 and Cassian, like, you know, being like going back to it, like this being that droid, like kind of how L5 was put into the Falcon.
Yeah, wow. I didn't even think about that. That could be.
I saw a random retweet, so like I can't give any credit this time, but it was just like a random retweet, and I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting, like, it'd be a cool little tidbit because like it connects to his mom, you know, and like I don't know, it just is kind of a little idea.
I like the connection. I like the connection a lot. I'm very, very curious about that. But we got to talk about this awesome space sequence here. Milton, you pointed out how freaking cool it was seeing countermeasures on this Fondor ship, this
Right.
Corellian freighter, if you will. And yeah, let's just lead off with that. What was your, Milton, your further in-depth analysis of this scene?
Yeah, I think what helped me really like that scene was the scene prior to that between Saw and Luthen. Just seeing, you know, that interaction, which then led up to this, knowing that he's heading back to. Well, let's actually skip to another scene prior to that. The exchange that Val had with his clerk.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, so knowing
Cleo.
like,
Yep.
yeah, that the urgency he needed to be back. So I think that put a lot of stakes on his getaway, knowing that he just had that conflict with Saul, which he could have not walked away from. Also, Val needing him to come back, she had to give information to him, and the clerk not knowing where he's at, pretty much. So seeing that, and also this is him playing a role again, like was about to prepare to get back into that character, but then all of a sudden the Imperial stopped. But I thought it was gorgeous. So all those scenes made me like the scene even more. And the sea, was this the first space battle we've had in the show?
Yep.
Okay. Like, to me, I thought we were watching a movie.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
And this is what this goes back to my argument I've had recently about the lack thereof of quality in certain shows. Obi-Wan should have had this type of quality. Like, literally. Like, I'm watching a show about a character that's not as popular as Obi-Wan, and the budget they put in just for this 2-3 minute space battle. Are you serious? This felt like I was watching Rogue One.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
gorgeous. I mean, it was gorgeous. I love. And what was that ship called? Do you know what that ship is called? Not Luthen's, but the Imperial ship. What is that called?
Funny you should mention that, Milton. I put up a video on YouTube talking all about the Arrestor cruiser, something class, Calvin class, something like that. Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting the name? It's the concept artist of Star Wars, Colin Cantwell. It's the Cantwell class. They named this ship after the concept artist, which was awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen that ship, and if I have, I apologize. I just don't remember it. But for them to introduce that ship into the show was dope, and how he countered that was like, I'm like, oh, he's done. No one gets out of a tractor beam.
No, I know.
And it's like, oh, okay, like now I know how to get out of a tractor beam. You know, from this point on, in my head canon, moving forward in other Star Wars films, they better get out of tractor beams because clearly Luthen did it. So yeah, it was dope. I loved it. It was one of my favorite scenes of the whole entire episode.
Right, we've seen so many scenes of starships and chases and all. So what could set this one out from the others? That's what I'm always looking at with Star Wars. What fresh new takes are we going to get? It's just going to be TIE fighters chasing and they go to light speed like, big whoop, there's no danger here. Well, there's danger when you're trapped in a tractor beam, and we've never seen what happens to this character before. We've never seen anybody get out of a tractor beam. And for him to do something that was so suspenseful where it's like, oh, he's getting ready, we don't know what he's doing. He's talking to his like droid unit in there, and it's like, boom, it just disintegrates the dishes. But this ship, it's like the precursor to kind of a Star Destroyer, sort of, but its main idea is like it's an Arrestor cruiser. It's literally just there to go after pirates, to get them. There's like 3 different tractor beams. Each dish is a powerful tractor beam to get these people justice. So as they heard Saul was there on the planet, that's why that thing was scrambled out there to try to find them. But yeah, I think that was pretty neat. And again, like his ship doing the lightsaber thing, like another awesome moment. Like we've never seen that in Star Wars before.
Yes, which was dope. And also him creating like fake documents to like, you know, thinking, oh wait, I've never seen that before. I mean, we've seen like kind of glimpses of that, but to me, and this is blasphemy, I know I'm going to say it, but like, I'm like, I always thought Anakin and Han Solo were the best pilots in Star Wars. Like this guy, Luthen, we need to explore where he came from. Because clearly you don't fly like that if you're some store merchant.
Yeah.
You know, the way he flies, he doesn't fly like some random store merchant. He had to have been part of something. So his background needs to be more explored, whether it's to a book or a comic book.
Yeah, Ben, do you have something to say about this?
I mean, well, first of all, I will throw out there, that's a whole podcast for another day on the budgets and visuals of these shows, because Kenobi not looking like this show is a travesty.
Oh, dude, it's a crime.
It is a crime against Star Wars that they had the nerve to like give a side character, not even the lead character from Rogue One, the side character from Rogue One that helps the lead, this type of a budget compared to Kenobi, or forget Kenobi, even Book of Boba Fett. Like those are legacy characters. It's just like when I see stuff like this, I just shake my head because it's like, what could have Kenobi been with this budget? That's what I wonder. But in terms of the whole sequence, I thought it was really good. Like, of course, finding out about the Cantwell, like that's a cool like callback. That they did that for like the concept artist. I thought that was nice. And then just the whole sequence played out really well. Like, I thought all the Luthen stuff was really good, but neither of you actually mentioned one of the parts that I noted to myself to bring up during this sequence was the Imperials at the time. Like, you talk about like in real life, there's plenty of people that deal with like bad cops and stuff. Like, they literally said when he basically said I'm innocent, whatever, blah blah blah. They said, oh, let's just run this test anyways. Let's board and run the test anyways. Like, hey, let's just test it out. Like that's abusing power and stuff. Like, you see that type of stuff in real life. So it was kind of cool, like seeing more of the bad side of the Empire, basically just saying, screw the rules. We're just gonna go and board this dude's ship anyways, and probably end up killing him because he'll probably try to fight us off. Like, I thought that was a really good little subtle thing they put in there.
Yeah, it just shows you how just bad the Empire. I mean, we've so many references of like why the Empire sucks, why the Empire is fascist, and why they are just guys and jerks. And the show just continues to make them even more of just despicable. Like, this is Alderaan. They're a very respectable part of the Empire. Screw it. We're gonna just bring them in anyway. We're gonna have practice on the ship here doing this whole procedure. We're gonna inconvenience this guy. Who cares?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If he would have fought back, they would have like taken him out.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my thing, and I'm sure this is what you were alluding to, Chris, when you like asked me about this whole sequence. So here's a fun thing. I definitely can't take credit for this at all. This is purely John Campea bringing it up on his show. He has a theory, and no, I haven't seen anybody talk about it yet at all except for him. And his theory is, okay, so when Luthen goes to meet with Saw Gerrera, and I went back and watched that scene again and paused it, and it 1,000,000%. Like, okay, so when he goes to meet with Saul, like, he meets that guard first, and he hands him something, and if you pause it and look at it, it 1,000% looks like he's handing him a lightsaber.
That's his cane now.
What do you say?
That's a cane. That's not a lightsaber.
I don't know. Is it? Because I mean,
you see it in episode 2. He gets off of the little space bus to freaking Ferrix, and he extends it. And then when he walks into town, he takes it back off and puts it in his pocket, so he looks like he's stronger. It's a very nuanced, a very little tiny detail, but I noticed it on like the third watch.
Yeah, I mean, they have that possibility. I mean, then again, Darth Maul is using his as a cane. Because here's the thing with my whole idea with it. Hearing Campea talk about it. So, like, say if that was, he already handed Cassian a Kyber crystal earlier in the series.
Yeah, that was suspect.
What if this guy was like a former temple guard with one of those double-bladed lightsabers? And then, we see his piloting skills. It's like, okay, like, is this guy potentially a former Jedi? And, like, my thing with it is, we don't even have to see him, like, whip a lightsaber out. Like, it would, in my opinion, if he would turn out to be a former Jedi, it would make his character even that much more interesting, especially after his whole big speech in the last episode of having to like give up so much in his life and blah 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 and all this sort of stuff. Because, say what you want about Star Wars, but at the end of the day, the core of Star Wars is the Force and Jedi and Sith and like good versus bad. Like, no matter what it comes down to, it always comes down to the Force being involved. Like, we didn't think that with Rogue One, and then we get Leia and Vader being involved with it. Like, to me, I think, whether it be this season or next, I feel like we will get some type of a Force presence, and maybe that could be Luthen. Like, if I had to guess, like, if I had to put a percentage on it, I would still say it's very low that he's a Jedi. It's maybe just, hey, he's just collecting old things like the Kyber crystal and things like that. Like, he's collecting these items like as like a museum type person or whatever, like as the cover. But maybe not. Maybe he's maybe it's the whole like hiding in plain sight type deal and the Empire not even realizing it. So like I think there's a chance. If I had to put a percentage on it, I would say it's maybe a 15% chance of him being a Jedi.
Yeah, Milton, anything to say about this?
I mean, if he's a Jedi, okay, but I don't know. I don't see the indicators. I mean, I'm not saying Ben's wrong, but I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't see indicators of him doing that. Now, again, if his background indicates that, okay, then that's what's up. They hit it well. Then what happened to him? But I don't know. I just hope his I hope they get him off, because I mean, he ain't surviving long term.
Well, here's my thing just to throw in there with that is if he was, let's for all intents and purposes, say he was, I mean, Tony Gilroy, he knows how to do it. Like, he did it with Rogue One. We only saw Vader for literally one scene, basically. So, like, my thing is if he would turn out to be a Jedi, like, it's going to literally be just for one type thing. Like, there'll only be like one scene maybe we see anything related to that whatsoever, if at all, just because of Tony Gilroy wanting to do it as kind of like, I mean that's how he did it with Rogue One. Like Rogue One, you didn't have to have Vader at the end. Like they could have done something else. They could have had a bunch of Death Troopers, or they could have done anything else other than Vader, but they still used the Force at the end. And like, to me, I would be stunned if we get through, maybe not this season, but we're probably going to get through into next season. The Force is going to be involved somehow.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some of the Rebels crew joining in on that episode crossover when Mon Mothma gets rescued or something like that. But one last point I want to talk about here is, I don't know if you guys felt iffy about the storyline, but the whole thing that was going on with this pilot that the Empire was tracking down, but killing indiscreetly and all this Anton Krieger's guy, and that whole plot line kind of threw me for a loop, because I'm like, we don't see anything about it. We're just hearing about anecdotes and things, and it's kind of like, oh, what is really happening? But I feel like they addressed that really well with the conversation with Saul. The fact that we actually get to see good old Anton Krieger in hologram form, and how the Empire thinks that he's Axis. So that storyline to me has come around and definitely come to fruition. And let's just talk about the Saul scene in general. What was your thoughts on that one, Ben?
I really liked it. His whole scene. I like Saul in general in this whole series so far. Just because he hasn't become like his Rogue One self like that. But I've liked his character a lot actually in this, and I'm like, man, I hope we see more of him like in action, just in general in this series, just because he was doing the actor's name, Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker is doing a really good acting job, I would say, and like, to me, he's one of those characters, kind of like Billy D. Williams, even Mark Hamill, like, he can step back into the role and it feels like it's still him. Like, it's not like, to me, there are moments, for example, in Force Awakens where it doesn't feel like Harrison Ford is Han Solo. Like, it feels like Harrison Ford more than Han Solo sometimes. So, like, to me, Forrest Whitaker does a really good job of, like, stepping into the Saul Guerrero role, I think, really well. And then, his whole, like, conversation, like, I think all of this stuff, it's building up. Like, it has to be building to something, right? Like, in my opinion, like, I don't know. I just don't think we're going to keep cutting back to Saul without something. There has to be a payoff, right? Like, there has to be something we're leading to with him getting, like, involved, like, in a battle or something along those lines.
Oh, yeah. It's, I would, they're prepping for this battle. They're sacrificing, he said, 30 soldiers. But it's like this really high stakes moment, right? We've seen moments where Luthen's in a blaster battle. We've seen him fighting in a ship in the Fondor moments after this. We're seeing him having the guts to put a blaster up to one of the leaders of the rebellion in the middle of all these forces standing around them. Just like, yeah, I'm just doing this because I got to get you to listen to me. Like, dude, you could have just got capped like right there by like several people, and you had the guts to do that.
Yeah, no, I thought that was it was again. It was a great scene. It was one of my favorite verbal scenes in this whole entire like series thus far. I love Forrest Whitaker as an actor. I mean, I love Saw Gerrera, but every time I see his character, I don't know. I think of the Boar Gullet scene.
I just can't.
I love that scene so much. I don't know why. That's crazy. You know, like he's just a psycho. But at the same time, though, like Forrest Whitaker, I mean, and it's funny. I think Luthen was kind of manipulating him.
Oh yeah,
a little bit. But then I think Forrest Whitaker, like, was trying to test him too, because like you notice when he said, you know, the greater good, and Saul's like, yeah, the greater good. I know. Like he's like, okay, yeah, I realize we need to kill people. Like we need to sacrifice us to win. And it's like, dude, you knew the whole time. But I think Forrest or Saw is just a paranoid guy.
Yeah.
So I think they're just playing cat and mouse the whole time, in my opinion.
But it's just so cool to see Star Wars do so well with the spy thriller genre, and this scene proves it, where it's like, we have this guy, Anton Krieger, and one of his dudes got caught. So the Empire's springing a trap on us. If we don't basically attack, they're going to know something's up, and then our source is going to be destroyed at that point. So we got no choice. If we want the rebellion to still have a chance, we basically have to send in men to just die. We can't even tell them what they're doing. And it's like, that's the stuff that leaders have to deal with in the military. It's like the greater good is just, it's terrible. And this is what hardens Saul over time to be this guy that we see just living life with like one leg and one arm and breathing out of a tube. Like, by the way, and Battling Boston's in our YouTube chat pointed this out. He's saying about the whole thing where like, he's like, Saul's like, what's your source? Who's your source in it? Who's the spy? It's like 2 tubes. It's like, yes, because then 2 tubes is like, wait, what? Like, I'm not part of this. I like that. I got a little kick out of that interaction.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, but that's how we would react though. Someone accuses us of being a spy. I'm like, yo, you know what? I didn't say nothing. So it was cool. That was a good scene.
Oh man.
Oh, yeah.
So we gotta catch up with Cyril. How are we feeling about Cyril and his old buddy contacting him on like the most sketchy like TV in Star Wars? That was so funny.
I'll say this. This is, you can record. This is what, November the 18th. This is probably the only scene I liked of him thus far. Like he's still trash, but the only scene that I've liked of him because it actually did something. Like, okay, I will say the last 2 scenes I've liked with him was this one.
And Dedra, right?
It was track down old girl at the ISB when he like pulled Debra. Okay, those 2 scenes were good. That's it. Like, and because then, okay, now we know he's going to go to the planet. He's going to try to deal with Andor himself.
Yep.
Like we can see that interaction. I can see him pulling in Debra and saying, "Hey, can you come with me?" 1, I think he's in love with her, and 2, he can try to go to her directly and say, "Come with me and deal with this shit." But like, yeah, he's still garbage. But yeah, these last couple scenes, he's been okay.
Yeah, Ben, what'd you think about that?
I don't. Every time, I just can't help it. When I see a picture of Cyril or anything in him in the series, I just always think of Milton now. Same. At this point. Like I see Cyril, and I just instantly think Milton. Like that's what instantly. That's my correlation of that character now. I just think Milton. Like instantly, as soon as I see that character. But no, that scene, like Milton said, I think it was his best scene next to me, like you alluded to, Milton, maybe he's in love with her, or something. Like his scene where he met her outside of the workplace type deal, basically. Like that was kind of like the crazy boyfriend stalker, meeting the girl in a movie type thing, in my opinion.
And I think she was in it low key. I think she was into him low key.
Yeah, yeah. I could definitely see something coming out of that, maybe, because there has to be a payoff.
Right, because I noticed even in their interviews that they do, because I went back and actually looked at like who the actress was, and I was looking at her interview. She's always with him in the interviews.
Interesting.
Something. Well, are they alluding to something, or are these two going to like
Oh
form an
yeah,
alliance
yeah.
with each other? So that's why I think he's into her. But go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a possibility with that. That's really interesting, though, now that you point that out about the actors being together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, yeah, I just thought it was done really well. And again, we just automatically assume everything in Star Wars is like high tech, and then he's making like the sketchiest possible phone call available type thing. And I'm like, man, our iPhones right now get better to like service on sketchy Wi-Fi than that call was making.
Like it brought me so much joy to see that character again. I forget the character's name, but again, like I know you guys are like, oh, the first 5 episodes, but it's cool to see like them calling back stuff even from like episode 3. Like, oh, you remember that guy that was like all up in his face, like, wake up! Like he's at the Morlana 1 factory. He's like on a factory line now, and he's like, oh, I gotta wait for the smelter to shut up so I can start talking again. Like, I just loved like just the whole feel of this conversation. It was just so bizarre.
Well, all right, I will throw that out there. So, yeah, don't get me wrong. First 4 or 5 episodes are my major issue with this series, but it was cool seeing that character being the one calling Cyril. And I wonder too, what does like, I don't know, what's a Star Wars cell phone look like? Like, what's he calling off of? Like what's it look like? The device? Like, I would be interested to see what those look like.
We see them. They have a couple payphones. We see Andor talking.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I bet you it's like one of those, the space payphones.
God, that's so crazy. But yeah, no, it was cool seeing him. And again, it finally, man, you talk about a slow burn series. Like, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of slow burn stuff in this series, but finally, 11 episodes in, we finally get a direction for Cyril. It's taken a long time, but we're finally here. So at least we know. I don't know. Maybe. Well, what do you guys think? Does Cyril go and like blow the Empire's trap and mess everything up? Like because he's got to be included in the finale somehow.
Yeah. The best case scenario here is the fact that Cyril decides to pursue Andor, takes a detour at Morlana 1, and brings his good old buddy with him. And that'll get the biggest rise out of me. I will literally just... That is the best thing that could happen in the episode. If I see those 2 guys working together to take down Andor, I'm going to be so happy because maybe he'll need backup, and Daedra sure as hell doesn't give a crap about him at this point and thinks he's a creep, so he's going to get somebody to watch his back going after this guy that already had him basically in bondage the first time. So it's like, But I think that there could be some... interested. There's just so many wild cards in this finale. We can just get into our quick predictions for the finale. What could happen, right? Because we're gonna have what's obviously happened on Ferrix. That's Death Troopers are seen in the trailer. We haven't seen them yet. They're searching around the trailer. We've seen a big riot of the Minban looking Imperials with the Veers helmets with the riot shields going against the public in a mass. We haven't seen that yet. So there's going to be some big moments that are coming, but I do hope that it's not dealt with off screen with the stuff with Saw. I don't know if they're going to have the budget to have like a huge ass dog fight with all that stuff, because we sure as hell haven't seen anything about it. But I would love to see that. I still say this. I hope the end of the episode gets Saul's forces to maybe unite with Mon Mothma's forces, or Mon Mothma and with Luthen. And maybe we'll see Bail Organa even in the finale. Like, the last scene will be like, this is the formation of the Rebel Alliance, and it's like you got Admiral Akbar there, you got what's his face that dies, the other Mon Cal guy, Admiral Raddus. I want to see that happen, but I feel like the show is so much in a microcosm with just like one planet that stuff might not happen until season 2. But that's what my hopes are. I'll throw it to Milton there.
Yeah. No, I think for my prediction, I think because I didn't get to. You said there's a trailer that came out for this episode already, or episode 12.
No, I was just saying about the trailer that we got in the beginning of the season. Stuff I've seen.
Yeah. So I mean, prediction for episode 12. I mean, obviously we're gonna have some people lose their lives. I think we're gonna lose a major character. I think we're gonna have to. I can see it being Luthen. I can see it being Debra maybe, but I can see them bringing her back for season 2 because she has been. I've liked her character, but I can see Luthen being sacrificed because there's only supposed to be 2 seasons of this show, so he would have to go so Andor can become the guy he needs to become. I feel like that's essential. So my prediction is that Luthen's going to die. Yeah. So.
I mean, I'm looking at the future, and flashbacks are always a thing. But he was like, definitely like, oh, I'm shooting season 2. And it's like the real world stuff gets in the way sometimes, and I'm like, son of a gun,
Oh, so Luthen's coming back?
I mean, it could be flashbacks. Maybe they'll show him as a Jedi in season 2. I don't know.
And again, flashbacks I'm cool with, but I think in present time, because the season 2 leads up to Rogue One. That's what we were told. So, and at that point, it's Captain Andor. He's in the right now. He's not really in the rebellion. People need to understand he's not a part of the rebellion yet. He just was a hired hand. He's a contractor.
But here's the thing. Yeah. But Luthen has to survive to introduce Andor to the Greater Rebellion. Like, Andor doesn't have any other contacts that we know of at this point that would actually have him to get an in with these higher ups,
But Val and that clerk chick knows.
Yeah.
So
Val knows.
something maybe because Val supposed to kill him.
Oh yeah.
One point.
We're gonna have an interaction between those two for sure because she's going back there, and that's got to be resolved.
Right. So I can see Luthen dying, but then Val saying, "Well, no, he's been a good asset. Let's keep him around. Let me introduce him to my sister."
Yeah.
Action.
Good point.
My cousin, so we're good.
Yeah,
Ben, what are your predictions?
I think there's a lot of different ways this finale could go, but my main thinking is we're going to have the Empire set up the trap off screen, and then the trap at the funeral off screen, and then you're going to have Cassian. We're going to have scenes of Cassian probably feeling crappy because he's not going to the funeral. So we're going to get some type of a travel sequence of him somehow getting there. And then that's when probably things will pick up, I would say. Like, we'll have him at the funeral, probably sneaking around. And then we know Cyril is going to be on the way there. So, it'll be more stakes for us. So, like, I think we'll get to a point where it could almost be like you're not comedic, obviously, because it's a funeral, but it's like the ironic thing of like, we're at the funeral, Cassian looks over, and then he like gets eye contact with Cyril or something. You know what I mean? Like, you have that trope in movies, like where the bad guy meets the good guy, like in a public place type deal. Like, I think we're going to get something like that where they meet. Cyril probably makes a move, and then everything goes crazy between the public, the Empire, everyone's like, oh, get him. Like, I think it's going to be something along those lines where Cyril is probably going to be the one to spring the trap. And then in terms of who dies, I don't know. Like you said, Luthen won't, especially now that Chris told us that that interview stuff about him doing season 2. But I could see some of the other characters dying, like Val, because if she's wanting to kill Cassian's probably going to take her out. Like, because we've seen Cassian just kill people before, so it would not surprise me one bit if he just takes her out without even a question or hesitation, I guess I would say, especially at this point where he's pretty much already like, things can't get any worse now at this point. So, I think we'll see her probably get taken out. I think Deidre might end up being our guy from Star Wars Rebels was Callus. She's going to be kind of like that. I think she's going to be our main villain for this whole series, where she's going to be like constantly kind of chasing Cassian and the group of rebels type deal. Like, it'll be her specialty, her thing she's chasing. I think she'll be probably fine. But yeah, I can definitely see some of the other side rebel characters like Val and those type of characters getting taken out. And I do think we'll get the whole meeting of, like you mentioned, Chris, the meeting of Mon Mothma and Cassian, or even Cassian getting introduced to more higher up rebel people. Because the thing is, are we, we got to get to some point where they're going to meet.
Yeah, finally my guess will be Vel. I'm just thinking about Suthra or whatever her last name is. She's a connected character to many fronts, right? If she dies, Mon Mothma's going to be affected. Mon Mothma's going to be like, oh crap, like, this is real. I got to get my crap together. And then on the other hand, there's a love interest between her and Cinta, who is the person on the ground doing these rebellion activities. So she's got a direct connection to multiple entities, which could have an interesting reaction going forward for many different reasons. Finishing up, let's just give the episode a score out of 10 like we usually do. I'm going to throw it over to Ben this time, since Milton opened up with his first impressions. I'll let you give your score out of 10 and your impressions and your final thoughts now.
Yeah, I would say overall the episode was pretty good. It had the only hiccup of the episode was the one with the aliens with the quad jumper thing, because it was just so like weirdly done, where they went from like basically saying, hey, we're capturing you, to hey, we're helping you, like in like a minute. So I don't know, that was done pretty strangely. Other than that though, the entire episode I thought was very good. Like all the stuff with Luthen, whether it be the ship or the Saul Guerrero stuff, and the stuff with Cassian was done really well. And then of course the stuff with Mon Mothma, like her getting introduced more to like having more of a conflict than just her writing the checks. So we're going to see more of that get paid off in the next episode. And then, of course, Cyril, like, this was his best stuff probably of the series, which isn't saying much because that bar was set pretty low, but they did pretty good with his stuff, because it was most intriguing to me, like you mentioned, Chris, because he made the call back, or like he got a call from that guy like we seen earlier in the series, like that. I thought that made that scene the most interesting, was that whole like interaction of him, like, Cyril going like, wait, what are you saying? Like, that whole suspense of, is the call going to drop before he gets the information? I thought that was a really nice touch. And then, yeah, overall, I thought the episode was pretty good. And for me, I would have to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10 from Ben. I'll give my thoughts on my score. So, as I always judge most Star Wars things, I go for the connectivity of different things that it goes around and has that cohesive connective tissue and other things, and lots of Rogue One connections. Not like straightforward, but I was saying like as part of a character's journey for Cassian, seeing the beautiful symmetry between those things is some of the best Star Wars symmetry I've seen so far between different projects is incredible. Seeing new things in Star Wars is always another thing that will bump my score up. Seeing, like we were talking about, the pretty good lance there with Milton opening up about the cool space interaction with what's going on there, but then also the whole idea of the constant theme in this episode is, what will you sacrifice? We've seen what Luthen will sacrifice last episode. We're seeing what Saul is going to sacrifice, his own men. We're seeing what Mon Mothma is going to sacrifice, basically her own daughter, even though she knows how it is to be stuck in that situation. So fantastic stuff. And also seeing a droid lamenting the loss of his basically master to the point where I've never seen that before. This is easily a 9 out of 10. I'm leaving room for the finale to blow me away there. So I've just been doing straight 9s across the board. This is probably more. Yeah, this is a good 9. I'll also agree with you, Ben. As I said, I was like, I couldn't understand what these guys were saying. What's happening in the scene? These guys are creeping me out in a good way. That's kind of cool that Star Wars is provoking me. They'll be like, ooh. But yeah, so that's the negative. And also, it's not really a negative completely, but I'm like, I needed more Dedra in this episode. I was like, she's one of the most compelling characters, and we've barely seen her, but we'll see plenty of her on next week's episode. I'm going to throw it over to you, Milton.
Yeah, overall, I like this episode. It was a really solid episode. It definitely did its job after that Prison Break episode. So pacing was good. Again, I think these last 5 to 6 episodes have really done a good job at pacing and pushing the narrative forward. I'm looking forward to the finale. Overall, I would have to grade this particular episode probably as 8.75 out of 10.
8.75 out of 10. A 9 from me and an 8.5 from Ben. Let us know in the comment section down below. What'd you think of episode 11 of season 1 of Andor? Let us know. Drop your scores in below for Daughter of Ferrix, let us know what your predictions are too. We have a whole week before we get to see this, or less than a week as we're recording this. So let us know. We're getting this episode on Thanksgiving Eve for all of us in America here. It's going to be a nice way to get into a couple days off for a lot of us. We'll have off for Thursday, Black Friday, big weekend coming up, and definitely want to send everybody out there. Hopefully everybody has a great holiday, enjoys your time with your family or your friends or whatever your traditions are. Hope you stay safe and enjoy your time. But yeah, fantastic episode, guys. Breaking down that episode as we always do here every single week, every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. You'll find us here, same place, next week. Make sure to go ahead and tell your friends about us. We'd love for you guys to get more people in our Star Wars community of positive people here. We had Dark Nerdy Gonzo in the chat room here. We had Sean Stratton, who apparently has experience or knows of working in areas with smelters, because he says try using a cell phone in a steel smelter area. They don't work. So yeah, Star Wars with realism there, folks. It's happening. They're doing their homework over there at Lucasfilm. So yeah, we had Battling Boston's in there as well. Dark Nerdy Gonzo, Matthew Negebauer from the Ion Cannon podcast. Check it out. He was there with us tonight. So lots of people, and you can be one of them just by, subscribing to the Starrapter YouTube channel and hit that bell icon. You'll be notified as soon as we go live. But what are you guys going to be up to this week? Milton, do you have any traditions for Thanksgiving, couple days off?
I mean, spending time with family, like what we normally do. I know normally I do something on Black Friday with my brothers and sisters, so we'll definitely be getting together next Friday for sure. Thanksgiving on Thursday, obviously, but I'm actually going to be cooking part of the meal this year, so I'm contributing in my own little way. But I'm excited for this upcoming holiday. It's going to be nice to have a lot of time off from work because it's very much needed.
Yeah, you got to get those mental breaks in there and recharge, man. It's all about just living in the moment on those days off and just soaking it all in. And hopefully you recharge. Yeah, what about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, for me, we're just getting ready for Thanksgiving and Black Friday and all of this good stuff. And then, for me personally, when it comes to family things, I'm just going to be taking a diet break this week, just maintaining all week, just because it's I've been dieting so long. I'm down another pound this week, so that's nice. Yep. So this coming week, basically, as people know, when you diet, for weeks on end, you get tired of it. And so this week being Thanksgiving week, I'm not going to try to totally restrict and diet and stuff. So I'm just going to just eat at maintenance, maintain my weight for the week, and then just resume it in a week and a half. I'm looking forward to it starting Monday, just kind of diet break in, continuing to lift, of course, because, got to keep lifting. But yeah, so it should be a pretty good relaxing week. And then, just talking Star Wars with everybody, whether it be on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, it's always fun, talking about Star Wars, talking about sports, especially, with it being the football season, me and Milton being really big into football. We're excited about our teams. Especially Milton's team. My team isn't doing well, but it's a great time of year. And then, of course, just trying to stay warm during all of this snowy, nasty weather. So, just pretty much doing the same old fitness stuff, sports stuff, video games, and consuming awesome, nerdy content.
Yeah, heck yeah. There should be plenty next week. For updates on my channel, I'm not going to get my videos up at the timely manner I usually do because, well, as we all mentioned, it's going to be the holiday next week. So I'll have stuff out at some point, probably later on next week. We'll put it that way. If you guys are paying attention, want to see the comic book stuff, it's probably not going to come out till Saturday or Sunday or something like that. But anyway, that's going to do it for us here. Where can they find you? Ben, you're at Real Ben Maynard on Twitter, right?
On Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at Real Ben Maynard.
And Milton, you're at Milton Weber 7?
Yep, Milton Weber 7 on Twitter or Milton 7 Weber on Instagram.
All right. Well, and you can find me, as always, on Twitter at Starrapter. Twitter is still up and running, everybody. For now, they say. That's where you can find all of us. But on that note, we're going to leave it here for episode number 83 of Outer Rim Transmission. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Be safe. Have a happy holiday. May the Force be with you. We will see you here next week in Transmission. Alrighty.